Hey guys, for this week we are talking about an artist or a piece of art that helped to influence and define art as a whole and the history of art. So, who I decided to talk about today was Leonardo da Vinci. The reason why I chose him is because he defined possibly the greatest period in art as a whole. He was in the Renaissance and he is known to be the definition of a Renaissance man. Um, Another reason why I chose him is he didn't only just influence art, he influenced math, science, music, engineering, geology, astronomy, botany, and he invented so many things that paved the way for, inventions and stuff that we have today. Um, Another reason why I chose him is one, he's very well respected, but he has some of the most recognizable works of art ever in The Last Supper and the Mona Lisa. He's also very influential, and to the point where we still talk about him 500 years after his death. And even Sigmund Freud, a very famous psychologist, even did a case study on him and psychoanalyzed him. Um, like I said a second ago, he also paved the way for many inventions such as parachute, helicopter, tank, machine gun, and even a diving suit. And I think the biggest thing that stands out to me is, how much his art is worth today. In 2017, one of his pieces of art sold for 450.3 million. So that's just insane that, even in 2018, 2019, he still has that much influence and he's still valued that much. Um, like I said earlier, he defines possibly the greatest period of art history, and he not only defined it, but he influenced other artists within that period. Um, One thing that he's known for is, blending religion, art, math, and philosophy all together within his works of art. This is apparent with The Last Supper. The Last Supper depicts Jesus at Passover saying that one of his disciples will betray him. And what's interesting to me is the amount of detail that goes into paintings like his, because within the painting, he has uh, every disciple present, including Judas, who betrays Jesus. And he also found a way to, I guess, show how they reacted towards Jesus telling them that one of them will betray them. And what's also interesting is he also incorporates math in a way because there's the significance in the number three, and you see the number three everywhere within his painting. And, even though it's asymmetrical, it's still symmetrical in a way because he has everybody grouped together in groups of threes, and, it just comes together perfectly. Another thing that he's known for is his humanistic approach, and he studied human anatomy heavily, and this is obvious with his Vitruvian Man sketch because we still use that today, and that influenced artists like Raphael and Michelangelo with their sculptures of David. They used his Vitruvian Man as the basis for what they were wanting to create. Specifically with his paintings, though, what stood out to me is he actually created a couple different methods and strategies when one paints. He would often blur the edges and put like a sort of glaze to make it seem more realistic. And he also contrasted light and dark colors, which is a method that he actually invented. Um, he also, like I said a second ago, he used a method that had a dark glaze around the edges of objects. That way, it's not very definite of this is where it starts and this is where it stops. It kind of blends it and gives it more realistic feel. Um, he also paid very close attention to detail, which really stands out in some of his works, like the Mona Lisa and The Last Supper and Vitruvian Man. There's so much detail within these pieces of art that is just astounding. And, the average person might not recognize certain characteristics But if you pay very close attention to these works of art, you will find tons and tons of things within the work of art that you didn't see previously. Um, but what really makes him stand out from the rest is how he incorporated and experimented with perspective, anatomy, and he even played around with the idea of a vanishing point, which previously had not even been a thought. So, you add all this together, and he's extremely influential in the art world, but then he's also dabbled in science and uh, philosophy and all these other fields. And it's amazing how one person can just influence not only art, but the world as a whole. And I think that, if you were to write a book about him, you could go on for pages and pages, hundreds of pages, just talking about how influential he was, much less what he actually did. So I think that he is the perfect example of somebody that in our art textbook that, you know, he's talked about, but you could really go more in depth about it. So.